In this video help, I'm going to be talking about a new app called Equipment Assignment Management version 13, which was developed in September of 2014. This application may look similar to some of the other ones that are available on the support site, but each equipment app has slight deviations in what it does and its purpose. And depending upon the company that's requesting the application, I have a number of different versions in order to support the different kinds of needs of those companies. This particular application is a little bit more centered about a company that has a lot of assets, and those assets may be located around a city or even around a country or around the world, and they want to track where those items are at. It can be the company's particular products or services or actual equipment that is scattered around. But in essence, what it can be also are other things that are sent to other companies as well. The one extra bonus with this particular application is it does allow you to set up and maintain a planned service for unscheduled and scheduled maintenance for all the items you may have located around the world. It also allows you to manage the assets as far as where they're going, when they're going to be picked up and scheduled. If these things are rotating assets or fixed assets, you can do it either way. It doesn't make any difference. But if they are rotating assets, you're going to want to be able to monitor them and manage them. And this application is designed to do that. Now, the screen that we're in is the calendar map. And the calendar, basically what it does is it sets up what are called appointments, but that's probably a little bit misunderstood, in that appointments can be things that are scheduled on a daily basis, and this is on the daily tab. So we're looking at daily transactions that can be either going somewhere, can be an individual doing something, or it can be something where you have a task or an event that you have to be at or to set up for an event. Any of those things could cover a myriad of different kinds of businesses that have assets where they have to have them at certain locations, and then they need to be picked up after an event. For example, I did a company that does lighting for different kinds of shows and weddings and other things, and they had to have a exacting setup where everything was at, when it's going to be picked up, delivered, and who's going to pick it up and who's going to deliver it. And that's what this application really supports, ideally, is that kind of a situation. There's also a weekly event. Basically what that does is it shows the daily down here and then the weekly events, and if you hold your cursor over this, it gives you a highlight of what the information is about for that particular day. You can add in another event or appointment by clicking on the plus sign in here, or you can click the date and go right to that date in the daily calendar. You can see all the events for a day, and you can also see, if you had to, for months, year, and a list. So let's go back to the daily. The daily basically is set up so that this individual that this calendar belongs to, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that, you can have an administrator or an equipment manager or whatever you want to set up as far as different calendars. Each calendar is unique and carries its own individual assignments and tasks on that calendar. So for example, if I had deliveries, then I could put them in the delivery calendar. I could have a dispatcher who's dispatching things around wherever they're going to go. I have an equipment manager that is the overall manager and looking at everything that's going on. I have a move equipment. This would be where if you're going to take it from one appointment location to another. You can be picking something up on just a date where it's a pickup, or it can be returned to the warehouse or wherever you're bringing stuff back to. And then there's a service calendar. These are all individual calendars. You can add additional calendars if you want. You can add people calendars. For example, if you had sales group people that need to know where things are at, so they know where the assets are at, you could have their calendar, and you could go into the appointment schedule, which we're going to talk about later, put a check in a checkbox, and that way their data would be on their calendar. Maybe somebody, the salesman or maybe a service manager in a location needs to know if his assets are going to be pulled out or taken back or going into service, he needs to know that by looking at his daily calendar and seeing what things are going to be in transit or what's going anywhere in the company. The biggest thing about the calendar is that it has a smaller calendar to the side, and anything that has a line under it indicates that there is another activity or event on that date. So if I click on this or click on this one, you're going to see that it changes. It doesn't change the administrator because that's how I logged in. If I were the manager and logged in, equipment manager, I would see a whole different set of information where people have either put a check in my checkbox so I can see it, or I have put something in my own and put it in somebody else's where maybe it's going to be in a different calendar. So the whole idea with the calendar is that it has the way to administer to different activities for different people and events, and also different calendars so you can see them immediately, like the move, equipment, and so forth. When an event is complete, for example, we did a pickup, then you click this checkbox and it puts a line through it indicating that it is completed. If you take a look at the icon will change depending upon what the activity actually is. It can be, in this case, a pickup, and it shows that it is Baker Electric pickup, and it was completed. And this was created by the admin person. This is the ID for that particular event. And this is how you can either click to go see it in the next calendar appointment where there's more detail. And wait, you'll be excited when you see what it'll do over there when I finally show that. And then, of course, you can have a title. Now, in this particular case, this event started on the 17th and at 9 a.m. and it was completed, but they didn't put the completion time when it was returned, but yet they checked the checkbox. You need to go back into this record either by clicking here or on the green arrow and indicate that it was completed at a particular time. Now, if this is over a long period, like more than one day, then you're not going to see the times. As I go back here and look at this calendar, you'll see that this was scheduled from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. This one is from the 30th to the 30th, and I'm going to go in here later and show you that I'm going to actually have this go from the 30th to October 2nd. And I didn't put the time in yet, but I'm going to. I just created this a few minutes ago where I have a delivery, and I can go back and edit it. But I want to show you how it updates. Now on this calendar, you have the ability to go a day forward, a day back, or hit the current date, whatever the calendar date is for today. You can do a search by typing in a piece of information and then clicking on Sight Glass, and it'll say show all those records. It'll go to the record where that particular information is on the calendar. So you can search for multiple days and multiple events by putting something in there. Now you have to keep in mind that if you're in your own calendar and you're looking, if it's not within your own calendar system, then you have to go search for somebody else's calendar to see it in theirs. The next thing is, in this application, there is a question mark circled by a gray circle. If you click on that, it's going to explain how to use these three and these three things down here as far as clickable preferences and or setup items. What you would do is, in order to learn how these work, is to click on this and walk through the tutorial, and it'll explain how that works. For my tutorials, I have an icon at the top of the screen that walks you through each screen and tells you how those screens work. So that's how you would understand how to use those screens. Now, in this particular case, I'm going to go in just really quickly and show you the user screen and show you how this works. The user screen is set up that each calendar that you created has a different calendar in here as far as an event calendar, like return, dispatch, and so forth. To add a new calendar, you would come up here and say new, and it would give you a new line, and it would also pop up a dialog. And in that dialog, which I'm going to show here, when it pops up the dialog, you'll see that it has the name split, like equipment manager. The login is manager, and there's a password that's in connection with the manager, and this person has an administrative role, meaning that they can edit this particular screen, and manager, they could set up different passwords and usernames. I'm going to go ahead and show you in here, though, that if you don't have the rights and you're only a user, the user doesn't have the rights to be able to edit the calendars. And the login separates the different people's administrative rights and non-administrative rights. So all these are user calendars that are managed by the equipment manager. who is an administrator. Okay, let's go back in and say, okay, if I had something and I didn't complete it on time, what's going to happen? It's going to shift over into this block over here, and it's going to be in red type, which means that this particular event was not concluded on the time that it was scheduled. If you click on that over here and click on the title like you do here, it'll take you into that event where you can either edit it and add a daytime, more time to it, or show it as completed, or make a comment as to why it was not completed. In some cases, something comes up where you cannot complete it, like you just don't have enough time in the day to get to it, and you'll have to reschedule it. So you're going to want to go in and make notes in the actual appointment itself here to show that you had to reassign it and reset it another appointment. Now, the particular thing I want to show you also down here is these particular two things here, the preferences and profiles, are basically set up for the administrator, and the relog in allows you to relog into a different account. If you're a manager and you want to go in and log in as somebody else, you can take their login and use it. But in most cases, individual users will have their own logins, and even the different calendar you see here, these different calendars, have their own individual login. And I, as administrator, set those up, and I can provide those to people if they're a manager, so they know how to log in and change those if they need to. If you needed to, for example, remove an event on the appointment schedule, you can click this X and it'll remove this. It'll warn you that it's going to do it, and if you continue, that will be removed from the calendar. Now, I want to explain, if you create an event, an appointment, or whatever it may be, you should not be removing them. If they're important enough to create, you do not want to get rid of them, because they act as a history of the particular case of whatever it is that you're doing. In this particular thing, what I'm saying here is that if I had a pickup, delivery, or whatever it might have been, and I want to go look it up, and I can search for, say, maybe Mr. Klein Construction, and I look for Klein Construction, I find that particular event, then I can look at it and see what date it was on, what time, how it was completed, look at the notes on it to see what's happened during that event. So it is not a good idea to remove different calendar events. That should be not done. Okay, the next thing I want to cover is that you do have a drop-down calendar that automated the way that the application works, where each screen has its own clickable button or tappable button on the iPad. You can close this particular box by clicking close, or tap outside or click outside of the box, and that will close it. We will be covering all these different screens in this application. The one thing I want to point out is that there is a service entity which has equipment service listing and work orders, and there's also an invoice. If you're going to be charging people for services, say outside your own company, you can create an invoice and do invoice and billing. There's a billing report and payment report, and there's a payment portal. There's also an expense screen that allows you to cover your own expenses, either for travel or other expenses that may occur as a result of doing business. Now, those would be overhead type of items, where the overhead account would be what you want to track different things for, and those are expenses that are not direct, meaning that they are indirect accounts, and they're for other things other than what you're going to be charging a customer for. Then there is an employee schedule, where you can schedule employees to make sure that they are available and can be there in the area to do the tasks that you need to have them done. And you can schedule and publish a event schedule for them, or you can publish the schedule for the calendar as well. But this was really a design so that you can create schedules for employees and have them aware of where they're supposed to be and at what times to do whatever tasks that they're supposed to be doing. This is going to conclude the portion on the calendar. The next place you're going to want to go is to click on either this arrow